All the games have been played, and the NFL offseason is here. And the offseason, guys, can be kind of a fork in the road. You know, teams have weaknesses on their roster, holes on their team, and they can either fix them, best case scenario, or don't fix them and go into 2020 in a worst case scenario. Ian Hartitz, why don't you pinpoint one of those and tell us how it's going to happen?
And we're talking about the Cowboys maybe being the most disappointing team of the last decade, but I think the Seahawks only having one Super Bowl with just all the defensive talent and Russell Wilson playing at a high level, close second. I mean, could have one play away from two, but anyway, protect Russell Wilson, please. I know he's Deshaun Watson-like, where he's going to take a lot of sacks just based on his playmaker mentality, sitting back, but they've now been a bottom 8 offense and adjusted sack rate each of the last 5 years, which, again, some of that has to do with Russ, but this is the rankings and money spent on the offensive line. 22nd, 21st, 16th, 31st, 26th. The last 2 first-round picks have been L.J. Collier, who played like 40 snaps all season, and Rashad Penny last season. They're not doing anything right now to help the biggest issue of their team, and they want to be this run-first team. Why not invest in the offensive line? That's going to help whatever running back you have to try out there, because they can't stay healthy either.
They didn't when he was still on his rookie deal, so now after the extension, that's clearly one area they have just forgotten about. They're like, we are not going to address this situation. We'll continue making Russ, forcing him to be spectacular on his own, which is what he does.
I'm going to morph into Dwayne Brown.
I'm going to morph into Brian Schottenheimer here for a moment. Okay.
Oh boy.
Don't want to do that.
There it is. It just happened.
Why did you just jam?
I'm going to ask this question: can Russell Wilson succeed and thrive in an offense where he averages like 35 passing attempts game after game?
And that's a fair question. I would like to see him get that chance and then fail. But either way, you don't want to do that, that's fine. You want to focus on the run game. Why not invest in the offensive line? What better way to help your run game? And that kind of leads me to the worst case, which is not only do they not invest more in the offensive line, but they lose Clowney. And now all of a sudden you have a Seattle team who their identity wants to be this big physical team with strong offensive and defensive line. And now they have it neither. The defense has already been much more mediocre since they lost all their secondary talent. Now, if you really want, you're going to have Bobby Wagner pretty much holding up the entire front seven if you lose Clowney. So quietly, this Seattle defense that used to be ripe with talent all over the place is now holding on by a thread.
Pat, what's your best case and worst case?
Well, the actual answer should be Amari Cooper to the Ravens or Robbie Anderson to the Packers. I'm regretting my answer already. It's kind of like a stunt answer. I'm going to say Tom Brady to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow. That's a curveball.
John Gruden, obsessed with star power.
That's best case scenario?
Yeah, it's my best case. I don't know why. Yeah, this is actually also a worst case scenario.
So I wasn't sure which one.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out.
This is Tom Brady's Las Vegas residency, like his Celine Dion years. Sell some tickets, build some buzz
Britney
for the
Spears.
Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, the Raiders can move on from Derek Carr. We can cut him and clear $16.5 million in cap space.
Yeah.
I just think this is something that might happen. Tom Brady seems to have a chip on his shoulder, a vendetta against the Patriots. This might sound silly in like a month when they've re-signed him, but John Gruden is obsessed with star power. They're both kind of masters of efficiency. We make fun of John Gruden. He does run one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL. Tom Brady's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in NFL history. They arguably have better weapons than the Patriots. I think it could be a win-win for both. Kind of everyone gets what they want. John Gruden gets his big-name quarterback. Tom Brady gets kind of a non-laughingstock place to maybe shove it to the Patriots. And
So, okay, if he wants to move on from Derek Carr, and I would believe John Gruden would want to, because to me, he always believes in talent on other rosters is better than talent on his own team. Wouldn't his biggest concern be that Derek Carr doesn't throw downfield enough? Do you think Tom Brady now throws downfield enough?
He does not, Josh.
Yeah.
But he's basically he's what Derek Carr is aspiring to be.
But at least the difference, Daigle, is that rather than once something's not open down the field, Tom Brady's not just going to toss it down to Jalen Richard 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He will actually try to find a receiver.
Let's just speak. You can really debate if this is a best case or worst case. The record, yeah.
I mean, Brady plays, as Josh always calls it, winning football. 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. But the Raiders' defense is not one that you want to throw Brady behind and force the defense to make plays because they can't.
Is quietly sort of improved.
They had a 3-game stretch.
It could only go up.
It could only go up.
It can only get better.
It would actually be, like you said, though, an upgrade at pretty much every skill position. Like Darren Waller, Tyrell Williams has been one of the most efficient, underused wide receivers in the league. Hunter Renfrow showed some signs of being an underneath slot guy that Brady's, obviously thrived with over the years. Obviously, Josh Jacob. As much as we hate on Jalen Richard, he is a good, pass-catching back that maybe Brady could find find more use for.
Is this something I would, more than best case or worst case, it's something I would find fascinating. I would find Tom Brady going to the Raiders more fascinating than Tom Brady going to the Chargers, basically.
Should we move on? Someone else? John Daigle.
I'll hit you with a quick best and worst case, because best case scenario for the Vikings following Kevin Stefanski's departure to Cleveland is that their offense doesn't miss a beat. Whether it's Kubiak, QB's coach's son, Clint Kubiak, Rick Dennison, the offensive line coach, whoever calls plays for them next year, they're still undecided, is that they continue using play action, which Kirk Cousins thrived from, 14 touchdowns to 2 picks from play action, and they remain the same team. What I fear will happen is their worst case scenario, which is, as we've seen time and time again, when impactful coordinators leave, it impacts, obviously, the offense. And I fear Kirk Cousins may decline without Stefanski calling efficient play calling for him.
Right.
Remember, Stephon Diggs demanded a trade reportedly midseason. That could also happen this offseason. And then that's it, number 2. So
I think you'll get your best case because it's going to be someone from the Kubiak.
Dalvin Cook staying healthy.
Oh, Dalvin Cook staying healthy. I should have just looked at the graphic, yeah. Dalvin Cook staying healthy. Remember, Dalvin Cook breakout 2019, but still hasn't played a full 16-game season. Only been 3 years.
Kirk Cousins, he's one better than probably the general public believes he is. But under Stefanski, he played like a top 10 and maybe even arguably a top 7 quarterback.
He was an MVP candidate like 10 weeks in.
Washington, though, he's just such a strange guy.
He is. He is. What do you think about Minnesota heading into 2020?
Look, Cousins was the reason they won that game in New Orleans against the 13-3 Saints team. Made some of the biggest throws of the season. That 49ers team was a worst case matchup. They gotta improve the offensive line so he has some chance to throw downfield. That's the problem. Diggs and Thielen are great. I'm seeing these cut-ups of Diggs actually getting by Sherman, but when you only have 2 seconds to throw the ball, what can you do?
Yeah, quadruple moves don't really work.
But you gotta get the ball out that quick. Yeah.
I'll close this one out. I want to look at the Los Angeles Rams. One, I wonder, best case is that Sean McVay looked in the mirror after his Super Bowl loss to the New England Patriots and really what this team did this year, being just average, and said, hey, Wade Phillips is a good defensive coordinator, but it's kind of getting stale. It's the same thing week after week. And then I'm just not going to be in charge of everything here. I need to hire an offensive coordinator as well. He's hired 2 coaches now that are in their 30s that change things up. There are multiple that alter their game plans because that's what beat him in the Super Bowl. So hopefully that works. Hopefully that kind of reopens or continuously opens the window for the Rams and their window to win right now. But then the worst case is that it doesn't. And really what is closing this window for the Rams is the quarterback play behind this offensive line. No quarterback in the league is worse or has a bigger drop-off from clean pockets to disrupted pockets than Jared Goff. And right now he's playing behind a broken fence and is a trash can behind it.
Well, he's only making $36 million next year, so don't worry about it.
It's a major issue. And while he had a perfect situation to succeed for 2 years, now you have Andrew Whitworth, who is nearing 40 years old and really no quality depth that has taken place of starters that have gotten injured or departed. It really worries me that the Rams have dished out these contracts to Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks and Jared Goff, and they now don't have a winning roster.
At one point in the season last year, Sean McVay pulled Jared Goff for Blake Bortles on a 3rd down and said it was part of the game plan. I'm just saying, if they don't get anything going the first month or 2 of next season, this has a little more of a Mariota Tannehill situation than I think we're giving it credit for.
Interesting.
It's going to be so tough with that. The Rams just might have an unfixable problem. They might have just backed themselves into a corner they can't get out of because Jared Goff, despite having such an enviable cast of weapons, cannot create offense on his own.
Yeah.
Like you said, if the situation, the setup's not perfect, if the offensive line's not perfect, if the play calling's not perfect, if the audibling in his ear till 15 seconds on the play clock isn't perfect, he can't do it on his own. He's a deer in headlights when he has to make decisions, make plays on his own, stuff off script. And I don't know how you fix that. After 3 years in the NFL, too, I just don't know. 4 years, I just don't know how you fix that.
I think it's a team that the talent level, no matter what, will help them reach the playoffs, even though they didn't get there this year.
Such a tough division.
But it is. It truly is.
I think firing Wade Phillips could be a bad move, frankly.
Defense, best part of the team for sure.
Defense with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. All right, that does it for this topic. If you want to go check out the other videos we have, go and check those out over at Rotoworld and NBCSports.com.